Welcome to the Techie Books Google Hangout. Today we are speaking with author David Craddock, who wrote Heritage. Hi, David.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. So let's start by you telling us a little bit about yourself, your background.
Sure. Well, my background is, as you can see, a gray sheet. Oh, you meant my writing background. I started writing in college after a young adult literature teacher came up to me after class, and I'd read a paper she really liked, and she bopped me on the head, literally bopped me on the head with a big stack of papers and said, you're a computer science major, but you need to be writing. This is what you should be doing. So that was, a jolt to the head can actually do you some good. There's proof. And so I got on the writing track, and I actually started writing Heritage then. That was about 2005. I had a creative writing course. We had to turn in either 3 short stories over the semester or 3 chapters from a book. The professor assumed a lot of students might be trying to get something published. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I have to do this for a grade, and I don't have any other ideas bouncing around right now, so I may as well start Heritage. And I wrote the first 3 chapters. My classmates really liked it, and so that was really great encouragement. And shortly after that, my then fiance, now wife, and I moved out to California, and I started hustling in the freelance writing circuit. And that was 2007. So for the past 7, almost 8 years, I've been writing for magazines, writing for websites, published Heritage, of course. And Amy, my wife, and I, last year we started our own publishing company called Digital Monument Press, and that is an outlet, a channel for some other writing that I do. I write books about the making of video games. So last fall we published Stay a While and Listen, which is the history of Blizzard Entertainment and Diablo. It's the first book in the Stay a While and Listen series, and it's been doing pretty well so far too. So I've actually put some pressure on myself. I need to publish 1 book per calendar year, or I am a failure. I've got to keep
get working on books 2 and 3 of Heritage.
Yes, exactly.
Which book 2, and I'm going to jump all over the place, is actually not coming out till 2016. Is that correct?
That is correct. I asked Margaret for a stay of execution because I'm working on Stay a While and Listen book 2 and Point of Fate, which is the sequel to Heritage, book 2 in the Garrison Chronicles. And I guess one of the things I love most about writing is that I can write all sorts of different things. I tend to get up every day and work on something different that kind of scratches my wanderlust itch. And so I wanted to take a small break from Garrison Chronicles so that I could finish the next book and Stay a While and Listen and come back to Aiden and his friends in Heritage fresh and then ready to rumble. But I have the second book all outlined. Margaret and I are working on that. And I think we're going to do some special promotion for that one too, just because I've gotten a surprising and flattering amount of tweets and emails and Facebook messages from people asking/threatening for book 2. And so maybe we'll release a chapter near the end of 2015 or something just to whet the appetite.
And you did what most writers can't do, so you basically, the first book you wrote, you sold, which is really unusual.
There's an asterisk there. I finished the first draft in 2005. I took a month off. I went back to it, kind of pinched my nose and said, maybe I should just burn this. This is awful. But I didn't want to banish it to the trunk, which is where a lot of first novels go. They're just practice. You've sharpened your sword. Now go actually stab something. I saw a lot of potential in the story. I really liked Aiden and Heritage, the sword. The sword was actually the first character I thought of because, of course, as anyone who's read the book knows, it houses the spirits of ancestors from Aiden's family so that monarchs can keep that familial connection going forward and get guidance and magic and all sorts of things. And so what I would do is, like I said, after I moved to California, I'm back in Ohio now, but out there I started writing as a freelancer, and about once a year, every 12 to 18 months, I would go back to Heritage and take everything I'd learned over the past year of writing and improve it. And fast forward to, I guess it was 2 summers, or last summer, I sent the revised version to Margaret, and she really liked it, and here we are now. So first book, but a lot of learning and lessons went into that in the interim.
So now that we're 5 minutes in, I guess I should say, give us a brief synopsis of Heritage.
Absolutely. I brought my cheat sheet. I'll just read from the back here.
You mean you don't have it memorized?
No, I don't, actually. That's one of the things I love most about being a writer. My memory is terrible, and so if I don't write anything down, it's gone forever. But really, it's about a prince who is rejected on the day he is supposed to take the throne by the sword Heritage, which is really, as we've discussed, a capsule for his family members. So it's not just the sword kicking him to the curb and saying you're not good enough, it's generations of his own family. And so he struggles with that, but in the background, while he's trying to find his path, there's this evil force brewing, as there tend to be in these epic fantasy yarns, and Aiden has to find out what is causing this war that has suddenly sparked between his kingdom and this friendly nation. He doesn't want to fight, but his parents, who are ashamed and humiliated by his failure, give him a choice. They say you either lead the war or you're banished forever. And banishment is the best case scenario. So yes, that is what he has to do. And things happen, and he embarks on a great adventure with Heritage, and it's a coming of age story that was not actually young adult at first, but it actually works better that way, I think.
Yeah, well, it's like a lot of young adult books. It does travel across all generations because, I read it and didn't even put it into a YA category, even though your main character is, 16 or so?
16, right. And that's something I really wanted to capture. It's just at 16, you are expected, you're kind of at that crossroads. People expect you to be an adult, and you want the freedom, in air quotes, that comes with adulthood, but yet you still want to be a kid. You still want to hand off the ugly responsibilities to other people, and so that's really Aiden has to learn to stop doing that, take responsibility for his own actions. And of course, the backdrop of all that is zombies and magic and all that fun stuff. So I think kids have really liked it so far.
Yes, it is literally a sword and sorcery book.
It literally is. Yes.
See, I wasn't prepared by not doing questions.
Oh, that's no problem.
So, we can always do the, where did you get your idea?
Actually, I got different ideas for different chunks of the books and different characters. In 2002, shortly before my 20th birthday, my dad passed away very suddenly. And I was only 19 at the time, and so one of the things I lamented was I never got to know my dad on an adult level. Kids view their parents in a certain way. Your parents are the people who, food magically appears on the table. Christmas presents appear on December 25th every year, but you don't get to commiserate and bond with them over things like relationship problems, work, finding a way to pay bills. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to ask him all these questions we'd never got the chance to talk about because I was too young and immature to really care about all those things and what he was maybe going through. And so that's kind of what influenced the idea of the sword. I wanted a way for a character to have a connection to generations of his family, so that his or her family, so that whenever they were in trouble, they could just grip the sword and talk to someone, their mother, their father, their grandparents, people they'd never met before but had read about in history books. I thought that would make a really nice way to preserve the connection that I had never got to forge with my dad.
And I guess we don't want to get too spoilery, but we should also mention in the book.
Everybody dies. Oh, okay.
Well, a lot of people do.
Yeah, that's true.
But there is a definite separation. You either can do magic or you can wield a sword. In most cases, the two don't meet.
Yes, that was a balance I came up with. I wanted... the magic system has evolved over time, but one conceit that was there from very early on was I didn't want the protagonist to be too powerful, because a question I asked was, if there were a Garden, a member of this royal family like Aiden, who was super powerful in magic and super awesome on the battlefield with swords and military strategies, what if they went rogue? That sort of person would be very difficult to stop, and that is definitely a sort of hint for future books in the series. We might see a situation like that. So I thought, well, with every generation of the family, they'll only be able to produce one heir, and that heir will get one fork or the other of a certain river. You'll either have magic, or you will have an innate gift for combat. And there's still training and learning and evolve, but it's kind of like you're a natural. You just kind of pick it up. And I branched it off from there. One of the big projects I undertook when I was preparing to send the new version to Margaret was I looked at my magic system, and it was very superficial. You know, people could throw fireballs or cast lightning bolts, but it didn't really go much deeper than that. So I thought, well, it would be interesting if the sun were, I came up with a metaphor for the sun. It's this deity, and if you're good, supposedly you worship from this deity, and while the sun is up, you can draw magic from it, draw power to cast spells, but as soon as it goes down and darkness settles in, then the other deity, the bad guy, supposedly the Lord of Midnight, I think that's what I called him. I can't remember.
Lord of Midnight and the Lady of Light.
Yes, Lady of Dawn. And the Lord of Midnight is supposed to be the bad guy, and anyone who worships the Lady of Dawn has no magical abilities at night. So it's a metaphor for, well, what if we see a bad guy draw power from the Lady of Dawn? Why are bad people allowed to do things to hurt people who are supposed to be good? And so the magic system became this vehicle through which I could ask all sorts of interesting questions. You know, there's very strict religious dogma in the world. You are supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do this, no questions, no ifs, ands, or buts. And Aiden gets to explore a lot of that, because there comes a point in the book, this is a minor spoiler, where he gets to dabble in dark magic and he realizes, well, gee, I didn't grow a second head. Maybe what I've been taught all my life isn't exactly the truth. And that's just something I think kids struggle with. They are so often told things, but you have to experiment with them yourself. You have to ask questions and get the answers for yourself.
Yeah, sort of like, well, the match can do bad things in burning, but only if the person holding it does it.
Right, exactly.
And I also found it interesting because the common or logical point, if one person is magical and one person is a fighter, like you have it so only one child per generation. Mm-hmm. But the common and logical thing, so it's actually different than you'd expect, would be to have a male and a female child. One does one and one does the other. Right. So it's interesting that you basically got away from what you would expect out of that.
I do try to throw in all sorts of sixth sense type I see dead people twists, where the twists are logical. You can go back and say, oh wait, this seemed to come out of nowhere, but if I go back, I can look at this and see why it happened. And one of the twists right near the beginning of the book is Aiden getting rejected by the sword, and that's such a big deal because if there were another sibling, they could just fill the boots of the monarch, but Aiden is the last of his line. Until he procreates, the kingdom has no heir. What are they supposed to do? And he feels that responsibility. He's not yet old enough to really cope with it. Old not in terms of age, but in maturity and life experience. Yeah. Right.
Which leads to a question which hasn't been brought up in the book and may not be ever, but what happens if something happened to the kid? Say he drowned in a lake or something.
That is something we will explore. All I can say is it would be very bad. The line would probably end there.
So the parents can't procreate.
No. I'm sure they have fun practicing, but no.
Trying. Yeah.
Right.
And I know I keep looking off to the side. I'm not being rude. I'm just checking for comments.
Oh, sure, that's fine.
So, okay, so we have your magic system and your fighting system. And what else shall I discuss? This is why I like it when Margaret comes up with questions.
Oh, yeah, that's totally fine. One thing I'm particularly proud of with the book is, I think, at least as of right now, my greatest strength as a writer is setting a brisk pace. I don't like a lot of downtime. I don't like, I love to reread books. I have favorite books, as I'm sure you do and all readers do, and when I go back to a book, I either get really excited or I think, oh man, there's that 100-page slog through. And I don't want anyone to think that sort of thing about Heritage. I want you to be able to pick it up for the first time, for the 101st time, and have fun just flying through it. I wanted to set a really fun, fast pace, and that sort of that pace, that desire for a quick pace, dictated a lot of the word choice, the language, sentence structure, and that was a process that I really had to learn through trial and error. That is a garbage disposal below us. Neighbors are very busy and productive. But yeah, I think that's what I'm most proud of in the book, just the really brisk pace, and I think it's a fun, wild ride.
And it does show, and actually sort of nod to that near one point, probably about 2/3 of the way in the book. Like, things are happening and things are happening and things are happening. You're going, my goodness, this poor kid's going through a lot in this short period of time. Right. But then at the later point, he looks out and says, because it starts in winter, and at a later point he looks out and goes, sees things melting, and he's like, has that much time really passed already? Yeah.
So it's nice that, and it's also kind of symbolic, like, all the dead things are gone, we're being reborn, and by that point in the story, Aiden has learned a lot and matured a lot, and so he's ready for a fresh start. And that, I sound really wise and slick, but it was kind of accidental. A lot of these things, they're like Tetris pieces that fall so quickly that when they end up in the right slot, it was a happy accident. And that was too. I don't remember why I wanted to. I think just to show the passage of time, to show that this wasn't a weekend excursion for Aiden. It took a long time to learn and grow. But yeah, just as far as the pace goes, I wanted something big to happen at the end of every chapter. And Stay a While and Listen, my nonfiction book, is that way too. Whether action or some major character development, I wanted you to have a reason to keep turning pages late into the night. And that's something that Ed Greenwood, who created the Forgotten Realms, he read Heritage for me. Ed and I have been, I want to say friends, but that would be wrong, acquaintances for several years. And he said he read Heritage in one sitting. Well, started in the evening, looked up, and the birds were out and chirping. And he said he couldn't put it down just because there was that hook at the end of every chapter that seemed to be tugging pages for him. So that was nice to hear.
Yes. And going back, you were saying you didn't want just, fireballs and lightning magic.
Right.
You actually approached that right at the beginning, and this isn't too spoiler, but where Aiden is basically making dancing snowmen to amuse the audience as he's headed to his rite of heritage, as he's headed to the sword.
Right, just kind of showing that he is very young and playful and more entertained with getting people to ooh and ah at him, and also just showing that the magic is very flexible, and also showing that even though the good guy's magic is rooted in light and warmth, you can manipulate all sorts of things, even snow and cold, and that sort of thing.
Yes. Now, what to ask without giving too much away. That's also part of it, because you want people to read your book, and if we tell too much...
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, I know that the sword has undergone a lot of changes. Anyone who looks at the cover of Heritage might, and who grew up watching cartoons in the 80s, might recognize Heritage as the Sword of Omens from Thundercats.
Really? I didn't even notice that. Now I've got to go look at it.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. Thundercats was and is my favorite cartoon. I cringe a little more when I watch it today, but I always really liked Lion-O and the sword, and the fact that the sword could do almost anything, and I really embrace that can do almost anything in early drafts of Heritage. At one point, Aiden could physically enter the sword and fly around like it was his own Air Force One or something. But I got out of my... This would make an...
Uh-oh. We lost you. No! No! Okay, let me re-invite you here. See if I can get you to come back. Are we going to...
Am I back?
Oh, you're back.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. It froze, so I just clicked the invite again. But yeah, I was saying that the sword was a little too powerful at first, kind of a deus ex machina, and I wanted to rein it in so that people knew, okay, the sword's powerful, but the sword is supposed to be almost a flesh and blood character, and so it needed limits there too.
Yes. Actually, I'm looking at it now, and I see it. It is a lot like the Thunder.
Yeah, maybe sometime Aiden will hold it to his eyes and ask for sight beyond sight. One never knows. Yeah.
Thundercat's hoe.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, in fact, I actually, for my wedding present, my wife got me, she ordered a Sword of Omens online. It's the real deal. I have that, and I also have this giant battle axe that I got for reviewing a game several years ago. So I always joke that if anyone ever breaks into our apartment, they are in a lot of trouble because we're just flying around a corner with medieval weapons.
Well, we have a bunch on our wall too, including Sting and from Lord of the Rings and.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Yes, here it is, my Sword of Omens.
Yeah.
That sight beyond sight. Hopefully, I don't cut down any Christmas lights that she hung up. Yes, this sword was a very nice inspirational through the writing of the book.
And why do you have Christmas lights hung up over your head?
Well, why did we do this? She spent. Yeah, we didn't have enough light in this living room, so now it's actually really nice. When people come over for dinner, we turn on these blue and white Christmas lights, and it sets this winter wonderland sort of mood. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. And it took her 6 hours, so she said, by the way, those are never coming down until we move them. I said, okay, I'm fine with that. So.
That's fine with that.
Yes.
Is she watching your interview as we're talking?
She is. The benevolent dictator is right across the room on the couch. Yes.
No, I meant watching it on the computer.
Oh, no, she's watching me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my husband will often go on his and put on his earbuds and just watch as I do them.
Assume different digital identities, ask all sorts of different questions.
No, he's never done that.
Oh, okay.
It might be a good idea to seed the audience sometimes.
Put a plant in, just so long as they don't go rogue and start booing and hissing or something.
No, that's true. We should talk about some of the side characters.
Sure.
Even, like he has his best friend,
who
has a very strong Scottish accent in the audiobook.
Audiobook, yes. Yes, that is Daniel. He is a tall redhead, and Daniel is almost a one-to-one interpretation of my brother, Daniel. He is younger than I am, but he is taller. This is something we don't discuss very often, but now it's on the internet, so everybody knows. And Daniel and I are close, and I just decided to use his name, and I appended the last name, Shirey, of a friend of my sister's. And I just liked that name, Daniel Shirey. And it also sounds, Daniel he's kind of the comedic relief. He does a lot of growing too, especially in Book 2. In Book 2, Aiden is just one in a cast of many characters. Daniel and Christine and others get more screen time, so to speak. And but Daniel's last name, I like the name Shirey because it almost sounds like Shire, the pastoral wilderness of, where the hobbits live in Tolkien's universe. And when I hear that word, I kind of get a warm, cozy feeling, and so I wanted Daniel to kind of bring some of that to the audience. When he's around, you kind of relax. He'll have Aiden's back and make you laugh a little bit too.
And like all.
Christine?
No, not Christine. I was thinking about Aiden's wife to be, because like all people, it's an arranged marriage.
Right.
And that didn't go too well. But will she show up more in the second book? She only has, I think, a one chapter. One chapter,
yeah. And it's funny. So that's Nichelle. And Margaret wanted me to add another chapter, but I actually talked her out of it because I didn't want you to get to know Nichelle too well. She goes through a very drastic change from the time you see her for whatever it is, 6 pages in Heritage to becoming a central character in Point of Fate. And so I didn't want you to feel like you knew her too much, just enough to know that things were radically different. So yeah, she and Aiden will have some adventures, in book 2, and there will be a love triangle between Aiden, Nichelle, and Christine.
Christine, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Christine.
Right. She's actually my favorite character, actually.
Is she?
Yeah, I don't like Aiden very much. I kind of enjoy kicking him around. Christine is my favorite character. Yeah.
Well, Christine's been kicked around a little bit.
She has, but it's done out of love. It's tough love. I created her. She was going to be a one-off. She was going to be around for a few chapters, and then she would poof, vanish. Not exactly like that. There would be a bit of bloodshed involved, but she really grew on me, and that's a really good example of what a creative writing professor of mine called letting the dog take the wheel. I don't remember the metaphor exactly. I don't know why there was a dog in the truck, but the lesson was when you're driving and you think you know the path and the dog gets it in his head to drive, that you should let him and trust the dog to take you where he thinks you should be going.
Does that happen? We should maybe discuss a little bit of your writing process. Do you have a complete outline before you write, or do you just write and see what happens?
I found that I do like to outline, just because I feel like writing an outline is kind of like preparing for a cross-country trip with your GPS. You have a route so that if you go off-road and you find that, gee, this path didn't work out, you can get back on course. You have something to follow. But I find that no matter how thoroughly I plan for my trip, side roads always come up because I realize, oh, gee, I didn't think about this. And I actually like that. So the outline is kind of my safety net, my GPS programmed route, but I like to, if I get ideas, I just run with them. I think that any ideas you get, you should always explore just to see if they work out. If they don't, fine. It's just a few hours of your life, no big deal. Delete and try again. But I definitely think that the best ideas tend to be extemporaneous ones.
And have you found in your writing, you'll start with a character, and it doesn't matter, Aiden, Christine, Garrett, whichever ones. Garrett better get his comeuppance, by the way, as a
sniper. He gets it. Yeah.
And do you find that you start with a character and they're going along fine, but they end in a totally different place than you expected them to? Do they sort of say, no, I'm doing this instead?
Yeah, that actually will happen with Aiden in book 2. I had one ending planned for him, and something very different happens. And like I said, that did happen with Christine. I didn't think she'd be around very long, but she grew on me, and I decided to keep her around. And she's, one reason I wanted to do a second book in the first place was I wanted to explore other characters besides Aiden, and I really wanted to give Christine her time in the sun. I think she'll be a lot of fun to write. She was the first time around. I wrote book 2 about 3 months after I finished the first draft of Heritage, but it was also good for fire kindling and not much else. And even today, the one reason I'm going to go through and rewrite it, which I don't think will take too long, is just because so much changed in Heritage, like the two-pronged magic system and the deities and things like that, that book 2, all those ripples will be felt going forward, and I have to account for them.
Yes. So we've done about half hour already, actually. So
yeah.
Nicely. If people want to stalk you, what's the best way to do that?
DavidCraddock.com. I welcome stalkers there. There's a welcome stalkers, it says. I think my Facebook, from DavidCraddock.com, you can get to my Facebook and my Twitter. I think off the top of my head, Facebook is facebook.com/DavidLCraddock. So they can use that too. But the website is where I post blogs, and I have a Goodreads page as well. It's funny. I don't update my blog very often, and the way I justify that is I'm too busy writing, so I don't have time to write. But I tend to use my Facebook feed as a megaphone for my thoughts. So I'll throw those there, and I always post links to sales. I think Heritage is still on sale for 99 cents right now on Kindle. I've been talking about that.
Is it still on sale?
I think it is. Yeah, it was when I checked a little bit ago.
Okay.
I'm up to 15 reviews now, 4.8 out of 5 average.
Well, then you can't beat that, can you?
Yeah, no, I can't. I owe a lot of people money. No, just kidding. Yeah, it's going.
It does not say on your webpage, "Welcome stalkers."
Oh, it doesn't? Well, we're going to have to design that welcome mat. Okay.
It says, welcome to the online home. It doesn't say stalkers.
Well, that's one way to interpret it. You were going with the literal interpretation, and I respect that.
That's fine. Do you tweet much?
I have. So I like to think I know I'm good with computers, as people like to say when they call me at 4 a.m. and ask me to reformat their hard drives or something. But my wife is a lot more capable than I am, and she installed something that whenever I post a Facebook update, it automatically updates Twitter as well, which is great because, yeah, if it were up to me, I probably wouldn't do any of the social media stuff at all. I think sometimes I spend a little too much time on it. So this way I don't have to jump around between 2, 3, 4. I just go to Facebook and it's a one and done update. Yeah,
but one thing about authors, and you get a few who don't realize it, you do have to promote yourself.
Yes.
I mean, you can give the book to us, but a lot of the sales are sales that you do through your own promotion. We don't do a lot of that.
Right.
And not even the big ones do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's this widespread myth that if you go with one of the big 5 publishers, they'll roll out the red carpet for you and just kind of put you through the well-oiled machine of marketing. But no, they expect you to take the initiative a lot there too. So I know that firsthand. You know, like I said, Amy and I started our own company, and I worked pretty hard to put together a lot of promotion for our book, and that's why it's done as well as it has. And even with Heritage, you know, I've done 2 appearances. I'm working on booking. I want to do a little tour. I'm in Northeast Ohio, and I think it would be fun to hit a bunch of Barnes and Nobles and Books A Millions. I've spoken at some libraries. I'm 30 minutes away from my old high school, and I have some teachers who are still there who are very instrumental in encouraging me to write, and about 10 minutes away from my old college and the professor who hit me on the head and told me to start writing. So, you know, I would definitely like to put together a little tour during the fall, which is why I got my handy-dandy Chromebook here, so I have something to carry around with me.
You went with Chromebook, did you?
I did, yeah. I love video games. It's one reason I write about them. And I have a tricked-out gaming PC, but I find that doing my writing on the same computer that has Skyrim and all of those fun games installed can be detrimental to one's productivity. So I got the Chromebook because it's very bare bones. You can't even install any typical software like Windows software. So I just write on this thing, and that actually helps me quite a bit. It's kind of like George R.R. Martin has an old DOS machine. He writes his books on WordStar, I think. I think that's it. I remember seeing my mom used to use that. She was a medical transcriptionist, and I remember her using that program. And so that's nice for him because you can't take that thing online. Or you could, but it would be more trouble than it's worth. So, yeah. This is my DOS machine, basically.
As someone who's put in 100 hours on Skyrim, I can totally relate because I have a tricked out PC too. But I work on it too, so it's like, all right. I just need to go and,
I need to unplug from Skyrim. My addiction is, as far as video games go, is Dark Souls. I love those games. Unfortunately, I play them on PlayStation 3, and that's in another room, so I can't use that as an excuse. Yeah.
I haven't got the second Dark Souls yet.
Oh, it's really good.
I'm sure it is, but my Steam wish list has like 50 items on it already.
Yeah. Are you one of those Steam users who collects icons more than they play games, or do you try to play everything you buy?
I try to play everything I buy, but I'm still, I'd say, about 8 games behind because those are the death of me. But I do try to play everything I buy. And then this fall, everything's coming out. You have your Dragon Age and Far Cry 4, and the new Assassin's Creed is coming out all at around the same time. So it's going to be interesting. Yes.
Yeah, Dark Souls 2 is a lot of fun. They've been releasing DLC expansions once a month since July, and those have been really, really good. So you have an even bigger, fuller game to sink your teeth into whenever you get around to it.
Yeah, because I'll get all the. I like to get the special edition packs if I buy the physical ones with all the swag in it. But on Steam, I'll get all
exactly.
The soundtrack, the DLC, the whole works. And now that we've totally went on a different tangent,
right?
Pull it back.
One of those side paths. See, that just happened.
So what is your favorite game then right now? What are you playing right now?
Well, for this year, probably Dark Souls 2.
Just Dark Souls 2.
Yeah, my wife and I, we just got a PlayStation 4. We've been playing Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls, Ultimate Evil Edition, which is an even longer subtitle than I could come up with. And
How is it compared to the original Diablo 3? Because I've heard that.
You know, so I like to think of myself as platform agnostic. I enjoy games on anything, console, computer, phone, Abacus, whatever. But I actually think Diablo 3 is better on consoles. And this is coming from someone who loves Diablo so much that they spent several years driving around Northern California interviewing people who made the game to write a book on it. I've always thought of it as a PC steal. I think it's better on consoles.
See, I have. Let's see if I can switch to it.
Oh, I have that too. Yeah, I have that too.
So.
Yeah, that's.
I tried to get the tricked out ones with swag.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of fun. Now, late at night, if that soul stone starts glowing, do not nail yourself in the forehead. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, I keep it in a different room in the bedroom, so I won't see it late at night.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good idea. Yeah, it's funny. We talked about this being a tangent, but one thing I've been exploring lately is I don't think that video games and the next crop of fantasy and sci-fi writers are that far removed. I think it was even Brandon Sanderson who said, a lot of writers like Robert Jordan and Martin came up on Lord of the Rings, but I think writers my age and younger have been weaned on video games as much as books. Books and games are my two biggest hobbies. I spend almost as much time on one as the other, and definitely as games get more sophisticated and technology allows for more immersive stories, I found my writing influenced just as much as ideas I have from watching a screen as I do from reading a book.
Yeah, because a lot of them are, some of them aren't very, but you take the Mass Effect trilogy, that is a story more than anything else.
Right. And I think one reason I'm so drawn to Legend of Zelda is my favorite game series ever, but Dark Souls it's hot on its heels, and one reason I love both of those, not Zelda so much in recent years, it's become rather ponderous, but storytelling is told more through immersing yourself in a world. And so I actually think that can help writers because you don't have lots of cinematics and a phone book size script being spat at you on a screen to tell you the story. You're really learning about the world by the game showing it to you and by exploring it and by taking in these things. And so it's actually a pretty effective world building tool, I would think.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered just about everything, plus other stuff that hopefully people
Dark Souls and Diablo and Skyrim, and yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I don't often talk to other gamers, so I guess I shouldn't have.
No, that's all right. It was really fun. Like I said, I think the roads maybe started perpendicular, but they're straightening out and they're running parallel now. I think gaming and writing, it's...
Well, and you do have some that were books and turned it like The Witcher. I've read the Witcher book before I played the game.
Yeah.
And the first game was actually pretty close to the book.
That actually reminds me, I need to read those books. I really enjoyed the first game. I haven't played the second yet, but the first game was incredible.
You haven't played the second one yet?
I haven't, but now I'm saving it up because next year, I think around February, Witcher 3 comes out, and now that I have a PS4, I'm all ready for it. So. See,
I've already pre-ordered my super pack with the statue of
That's great. Actually, I should mention, I don't know if anyone would find it interesting, but speaking of the parallelism between writing and playing video games, I actually broke through. For years, I covered games, I reviewed them, and I've actually written some scripts for games. I wrote a lot of dialogue for Marvel Heroes in the, PC game called Marvel Heroes, which is a massively multiplayer online game. Yeah, I wrote for Cable, X-23, Psylocke. I don't even know if those last two have been announced yet. Maybe I'll get in trouble, but I wrote for them. I wrote some social games, so yeah, I think that it's interesting. The saying has always been, if you want to write, you should read, and I firmly believe that. But I think playing video games can also be helpful, especially if you want to write in that industry, which a lot of people are wanting to do, especially in this age where you have so many tools. You can publish your own books. You can create your own game mods or little games, and if you want to write for games, you should play games too.
Yeah. No. Well, definitely in the games universe, it's a larger indie than there used to be.
Right. Yes.
And so, which is similar to publishing your own book. You're publishing your own game.
Right.
As opposed to going through the big ones.
Right. And yeah, I don't know if anyone would be interested. My wife and I are getting ready to launch a monthly digital magazine where every month I will be publishing a chapter from a book. So bringing the serialized model back.
So where could people find that if they want to? Promote everything you do.
Sure, yeah. Like I said, davidlcraddock.com is kind of your one-stop shop, but there's also our publishing company is called Digital Monument Press, and that website is dm-press.com. There'll be information about the magazine there when we get it launched, and I have a lot to talk about regarding Garden Chronicles and Heritage and Point of Fate, so definitely hit up my main website for anything and everything, David L. Craddock.
Okay, yeah, I'm on the DM Press website now too.
Excellent. My wife did both websites, so send all love and hate mail her way.
No, it looks good.
Yeah.
Who did the artwork for Stay a While and Listen?
She did. She did the cover.
Really? Because it's really nice.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we really like that. It's actually going to be part of a set. In Diablo, you have the angel holding the life or the monoglobe and the demon holding the other. And so book 1, you have the angel. Book 2 will have, I think we're going to do a character. It's not set in stone yet. And book 3 will be the devil. So when you have them all side by side, it'll kind of look like the game interface a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah.
This time I really will say goodbye.
Okay.
Several times.
It was fun talking. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. Next month we're going to talk to Catherine Dassault, who does our French translations.
Oh, excellent.
So, yes, haunt David any way you can. Buy his book. Definitely buy the book.
Definitely buy it. Only 99 cents right now on Kindle.
But it won't be forever.
But not forever. Thankfully. I don't want to be forever. But right now is okay. Yeah.
Thanks once again.
All right. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.